My jealous sister sabotaged my honeymoon with my new husband and is trying to gaslight me into thinking that she wants the best for me. I found text messages of her talking badly about me, so I exposed her to everyone and cut her off for good. Hey, everyone, buckle up because I've got quite the story for you. I'm still reeling from everything that's happened, and I just need to share it. So, a little background. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Rachel, 24F, who has always been a bit competitive. Growing up, it was like everything was a race for her. If I got a new dress, she'd get a fancier one. If I made a new friend, she'd try to befriend them too. It's exhausting, but I always tried to be supportive because, well, she's my sister. Fast forward to my wedding last month. I married my wonderful husband, Mark, 30M, and I was over the moon. We planned a beautiful honeymoon to Hawaii, and I was so excited. I invited Rachel to the wedding, thinking it would be a nice gesture. I wanted her to feel included, despite our rocky relationship. Here's where things took a turn. Rachel had been acting super strange leading up to the wedding. She was overly helpful, offering to help with wedding planning, which I thought was sweet at first. But then I started noticing little things. She'd make comments like, "Are you sure you want to wear that dress?" Or, "Mark seems really busy. Are you sure he's the right one?" I brushed them off as sisterly concern, but deep down, I felt something was off. After the wedding, we headed to Hawaii, and that's when the real drama unfolded. I was excited to relax and enjoy my time with Mark, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Rachel was still lurking in the background. One night, I decided to check in on her via text. I was shocked to find a group chat with some of our mutual friends where she was talking badly about me. The messages were brutal. She was saying things like how I was too much for Mark and that I'd never be happy in my marriage. I felt my heart drop. I couldn't believe my own sister would say such things, especially right after my wedding. I felt betrayed and utterly crushed. But what really got to me was that she was trying to gaslight me into thinking she had my best interests at heart. The next day, I confronted her. I texted her, asking if she could meet me for coffee. When we sat down, I laid everything out on the table. I showed her the messages I found, and her reaction was chilling. Instead of apologizing or even acknowledging what she said, she tried to twist it around. "You're taking it out of context," she said. "I was just trying to help you see things clearly." I was furious. How could she think that belittling me was helping? I told her that I didn't need her help and that I was done with her toxic behavior. I said I was cutting her out of my life and that I didn't want her at any family gatherings or events. The fallout was intense. Our parents were shocked and tried to mediate, but I stood firm. I was done being manipulated and gaslit. I needed to prioritize my mental health and my marriage. Mark was incredibly supportive through all of this. He reassured me that I was making the right decision and that I deserved to be surrounded by people who genuinely cared about me. It was refreshing to have someone in my corner who saw Rachel for what she really was. In the weeks that followed, Rachel tried to reach out multiple times, sending messages of "I miss you" and "let's talk," but I ignored her. I felt stronger with each passing day, knowing that I was finally putting myself first. Eventually, I decided to share my story on social media. I posted about how I had cut toxic people out of my life, and surprisingly, I received an outpouring of support from friends and even some family members who had seen Rachel's behavior for what it was. It felt good to have my truth validated. Now, I'm focusing on my marriage and building a life with Mark. I'm learning to set boundaries and prioritize my happiness. It's been a journey, but I feel empowered. So, here's my advice to anyone who might be in a similar situation. Don't let anyone, even family, make you feel less than. You deserve to be surrounded by people who lift you up, not tear you down. Trust your instincts, and don't be afraid to cut ties with those who don't support you. Thanks for reading, everyone. I just needed to share this cathartic experience. Here's to new beginnings. On to the next story. My ex-husband divorced me years ago because he was convinced that I was cheating and jealousy got the better of him. Then out of nowhere, he shows up at my door begging for a second chance. Hey, everyone. I'm in a bit of a whirlwind right now and could really use some outside perspective on a situation that's turned my life upside down. Buckle up, because it's a long one. So, a little background. My ex-husband, Jake, and I were married for about 5 years before he filed for divorce. It was a pretty painful experience, and honestly, it felt like it came out of nowhere. The whole thing started when Jake became increasingly jealous and suspicious of me. I mean, I get it, jealousy can be a powerful emotion, but he was convinced I was cheating on him. I was never unfaithful, but his accusations became more frequent and intense. He would check my phone, question my friends, and even showed up at my workplace unannounced. At first, I tried to reassure him, but it only seemed to fuel his paranoia. I remember one night, we had a huge argument. I was crying, telling him that I loved him and would never betray him, but he just wouldn't listen. It felt like I was fighting against a wall. Eventually, the stress became too much for me, and I started to emotionally withdraw. I think he saw that as confirmation of his fears. In the end, he decided he couldn't trust me and filed for divorce. It shattered me, but I respected his decision and tried to move on. Fast forward to 3 years later. I've done a lot of healing since the divorce. I focused on my career, traveled a bit, and even started dating again. It's been a journey, but I felt like I was finally getting my life back on track. I had almost completely put Jake out of my mind, until last week. I was at home, just enjoying a quiet evening with a book when I heard a knock at the door. I opened it, and there he was. Jake, standing on my porch looking a bit disheveled but familiar all at once. My heart raced. I hadn't seen him in years. He looked nervous, and I could tell he had something heavy on his mind. "Hey," he said, his voice shaky. "Can we talk?" I hesitated but eventually let him in. We sat down in my living room, and the air was thick with unspoken words. After a few minutes of awkward silence, he finally spoke up. "I'm really sorry for everything. I was wrong to accuse you of cheating. I let my jealousy get the best of me, and I pushed you away. I've spent a lot of time reflecting, and I want to know if there's any chance we could start over." I was stunned. My mind was racing. Part of me wanted to scream, "Are you kidding me?" while another part felt a twinge of hope. I had loved him once, and seeing him again brought back a flood of memories, both good and bad. I asked him why now, after all this time. He explained that he had been in therapy and had finally come to terms with his insecurities. He admitted that he realized how much he had hurt me and that he had been living with regret ever since. He said he missed me and wanted to make amends, not just for the sake of a relationship, but to genuinely be a better person. I listened intently, trying to process everything. I couldn't help but feel a mix of anger and sadness. I told him how much his accusations had hurt me and how I had to rebuild my life after he left. He nodded, looking ashamed. We talked for hours. He shared stories about his life since the divorce, how he had struggled with loneliness and how he had tried to date but always compared every woman to me. Hearing him say that made my heart ache a little. But then I thought about everything we went through, the pain, the tears, the sleepless nights. Could I really just forget all that? After our talk, he asked if I would consider giving him a chance to prove he had changed. He suggested starting off slow, maybe just as friends, to see where things could go. I could see the sincerity in his eyes, but I also felt the weight of my past with him. So here I am, sitting with this overwhelming decision. Part of me wants to say yes, to believe in the possibility of a second chance. But another part of me is terrified of repeating the past. I've worked so hard to heal and build my life back up. What do you all think? Should I give him a chance to prove he's changed, or is it better to keep my distance and protect my heart? I have already gone through the breakup and have come out the other side. I'd love to hear your thoughts and any advice you might have. What did you think of these stories? Let me know your thoughts about them in the comments, and thanks for listening.